From bugs to layers and layers of dust, nothing shocked Chef Ramsay as much as finding human feces on the floor. Brace yourselves for an unforgettable journey into the depths of filth and despair. Because, well, today we're gonna venture into the most disgusting rooms on Hotel Hell. Let's get started with this fancy hotel, which was totally getting trashed without anyone's care. It's not like this owner was facing a cash crunch or something. In fact, he was busy swimming in millions of dollars, but the only problem was he didn't know how to use it. While the hotel plummeted to its worst, the owner found himself getting arrested for driving under the influence. And everyone knew about his stinking habit.
Philip will come in here drunk in front of all the staff, and it's just an embarrassing mess.
I mean, seriously, if you can't even take care of yourself, how on earth do you expect to handle a damn $5 million hotel? While he never failed to flaunt his riches, the poor 50 hard-working staff members of this hotel were desperately trying to keep their jobs on a ship that would soon go down. And guess what? This really began to show. The Monticello Hotel in Longview, Washington was at the brink of self-destruction when Chef Ramsay decided to help them out. But the owner, Philip Lovingfoss, was way over his head. And his girlfriend Ginger, who worked as the general manager, was struggling to pull things together. If you ask me, the Monticello had a lot of potential. This building, which dated back to 1923, was never short of guests. It was one of the oldest buildings in town and a true relic that had several guests interested in its historic beauty. But once the ownership changed hands and the pompous Lovingfoss took over, things began to slow down. Clearly, Philip was shelling out dollars to maintain his personal lifestyle. In the meantime, the Monticello Hotel took a hit thanks to his low-maintenance efforts.
Oh my gosh, seriously? That is so gross.
However, that's not even the worst thing. Within those beautiful walls laid a dark and dingy secret. Vanessa, the front desk clerk, gave us a quick glimpse into the horrors that laid within.
There are countless rooms stuffed with Philip and Ginger's crap.
What a colossal waste of space. But here's what's even worse. While the main hotel would turn into a hoarder's paradise, guests who actually came to stay at the historic hotel were shown to a shady side wing next door. And this left them just saying one thing.
I was hoping to stay in the hotel.
I don't even feel like staying here now.
And the same thing happened when Chef Ramsay showed up himself. When he first arrived, he was totally blown away by the massive structure of the hotel. And then he glanced over to the parking lot and my, what do we have here?
Oh no, somebody having a laugh. Hotel Hell.
Was it some kind of car show or something? But wait, before you jump to any conclusions, let me clear things up a little bit. Those cars were actually owned by Philip. Yeah, the same guy who failed to pay his employees by citing bankruptcy as a reason. Anyway, let's quickly skip to the part where Chef Ramsay was shown to his room. It's funny how they treated Ramsay like they would any other guest. Because had it been me, I would have made sure that he got the best room available, right? Or maybe Vanessa did this on purpose. Honestly, who knows? But I could tell you this, the famous chef wasn't the least bit impressed. When he was escorted to his room in the motel, which was adjacent to the main building, Ramsay was disappointed.
Now why in the would I want to stay in there?
He obviously demanded to be moved back into the main building. However, I think he should have just stayed at the motel since the room he moved into later on was simply disgusting. Could you believe all these crappy decorations were straight from Ginger and Philip's house? Even the freaking mattress.
You bring a mattress from your house into your hotel?
I wouldn't.
And that wasn't all. Vanessa showed him to the other rooms and Chef Ramsay couldn't believe his eyes. Ramsay was baffled when he met up with Philip and Ginger since Philip was blinged out with shiny diamonds. And well, he wondered why this owner wasn't using his damn money to improve the hotel. He then dragged the staff to his room and whipped out a black light that exposed the disgusting truth.
This black light shows up bodily fluids. That's exactly what you're seeing.
I wouldn't want to lay on that bed.
Needless to say, the staff started freaking out after seeing how nasty the room was. That night, knowing how filthy the bed was, Chef Ramsay refused to sleep in it. The place where he decided to finally crash will leave you in shock.
That was rough.
Yep, he thought that the bathtub was safer to sleep in than the bed. Chef Ramsay dreaded coming to the hotel that night. But so did several other guests who had booked themselves in. For that very reason, the famous chef reached out to all the guests to give the owners some honest feedback about their experience. And well, there was one constant response: none of the guests were happy. They were griping about how filthy things were, and one of the guests actually explained a pretty ghastly scene while describing his room.
It looked like an animal was killed and drug out the room.
But this one customer summed up the disappointment that most guests felt, including Chef Ramsay.
That I couldn't stay in a piece of history and got sent over to a motel.
Well, it looks like they definitely weren't planning to come back. But in this next hotel, Chef Ramsay had to evacuate everyone out of their rooms by pulling the fire alarm. Wow, that sounds really serious. And that's how another historic hotel featured in the 6th episode of Season 3 came crashing down. When Chef Ramsay visited the Brick Hotel, an iconic building in Newtown, Pennsylvania, he was shocked. What he found was a building that was first built in 1763 in an utter state of neglect. The hotel, which was older than the US itself, should have ideally been a proud landmark. But Verendar Kaur and her son CJ had converted it into a house of dust and destruction. Verendar was an overbearing owner who ran her business into the ground. She did this by cutting corners to make profits, which led to a high staff turnover. Her strict management style had caused customers to avoid the hotel, leading to a damaged reputation. When Chef Ramsay stormed into the hotel, he was furious with what he saw. The windows on the door were incredibly smashed, and there were actual bullet holes in the wall. This was no historic hotel, this was an abandoned war zone. Ramsay was so irritated by the way the wallpaper was half peeled off that what he did next was really satisfying to watch.
That looks much better.
As if things couldn't get any worse, on the way to his room, he found a vintage clock covered in years and years of dust. It was probably as old as the hotel itself. The housekeeper confessed that there was no cleaning schedule whatsoever. But wait, there was more. The housekeeper took Chef Ramsay into one of the rooms, and what did they find? You have to see this to believe it.
That is mold.
Yes, I said that.
That's mold.
It was an absolute nightmare. The funniest part is that the housekeeper didn't even know the real color of the curtains. Just look at what she actually thought.
The curtains were gold. For real. They were supposed to be white.
Finally, Chef Ramsay made his way to his room 201, but what did he find? Dust. There was dust everywhere. An ancient, dusty television and a nasty stain on the ceiling really brought this whole mess together. As if Ramsay needed more proof that this place was a disaster, he took out his bacteria testing kit and tested a stained chair. And what was the result? A nasty 446. And the shower curtain? Brace yourself, since nothing could prepare you for this.
680. What in the...
Which reminds me, I hope Chef Ramsay checked the bathtub at the Monticello Hotel since he crashed for the night. As for CJ, he had never stayed at the hotel since they purchased it. So they were running this disaster without even experiencing the hell they were putting their guests through? Bravo, that's one hell of a customer service you got there. At this point, Chef Ramsay had enough. He stormed into a room where guests were staying and checked under their carpet. Everything about this was screaming health hazard. So what did Ramsay do after all this? Take a look at this.
I'm done.
This was the only way he was able to help out these poor customers. And well, the only sane thing left to do was this.
I want to stop right now and shut this place down.
But at this hotel, Chef Ramsay found dead insects and a living cockroach in the bathroom. Yuck. But was that the end of it? Of course not. At least these were just insects. I will forever be a fan of Season 1 because Hotel Hell introduced us to some of the craziest owners with even crazier business ethics. Like, take River Rock Inn in Milford, Pennsylvania, for example. The owner of the inn, Ken Pashota, found himself in a massive amount of debt, owing hundreds of thousands of dollars. To make matters worse, he had to sell his own house in order to keep the inn running and had been residing in one of the rooms there. Perfect, right? That was the only thing left to see now, the owner himself staying rent-free. Upon his arrival at the inn, Chef Ramsay was a little taken aback by the lack of a warm welcome and struggled to locate the reception area. The assistant innkeeper Karen was the first person to greet Ramsay, and he immediately showed her the condition of her own desk.
I know, I don't mind getting stuck in. Well.
Oh dear, that is pretty bad.
As she escorted him to his room, she went on about how the hotel was supposedly built in the 1880s. And well, Chef Ramsay sarcastically remarked that it was still stuck with its original decorations. Then she showed him the closet, which was full of hangers and extra carpets. But what he found next was so disgusting.
Just check my view. Ugh, look at all those bugs.
If that wasn't enough, take a look at this.
I think that's a cockroach. To welcome me on the toilet.
No way.
In the corner, there was an awkwardly placed chair that miraculously had the best Wi-Fi signal. And just when Chef Ramsay decided to uplift his spirits by watching some TV, this is what happened.
I knew those shitty hangers would come in useful for something. Come on.
Unimpressed, he declared that these rooms were absolutely unfit for public use. And after a tiring day, Chef Ramsay was hesitant to sleep in his bed. Wondering why? Well, here's the answer to that.
Christ, that has got to be semen.
But luckily, he carried his sleeping bag with him. Maybe he learned his lesson after a rough night in the bathtub.
Oh shit, I forgot to turn off the lights.
The following morning, when Ramsay attempted to take a shower, he had to deal with a new problem.
Look at this thing. Oh.
Angry at the state of the hotel, Chef Ramsay summoned the staff and current guests to his room to discuss the issues. The guests complained about things like malfunctioning bath drains, low shower heads, insects, and uncomfortable beds with hard springs. What's more, all of them expressed their unwillingness to stay at the inn again. Chef Ramsay then showed the stains on the mattress, and everyone was disgusted by them. Nope, Ramsay didn't have to drive them away because they wouldn't have returned anyway. But at this next hotel, Chef Ramsay ended up sharing a room with a ghost. Damn, this is getting crazier every minute. All you adrenaline junkies out there, head straight to the Curtis Inn in Woodbury, Connecticut right now. Now, this inn was the oldest in the state, having been built back in 1736. It had been managed by the Hardesty family for nearly 6 decades. And at the time, Chris Hardesty and his sister TJ Brennan, who represented the 4th generation, were in charge of running the hotel. Sadly, the inn's decline caused a strain between the siblings, affecting the inn's operations and their family's relationship. When Chef Ramsay arrived at the inn, he admired the exterior but was disappointed by the inn's sign. Inside, he met Shirley at the reception and discovered that he was the only guest booked for the night. However, Ramsay had arrived 4 hours early for the 3 p.m. check-in time and was informed that there was a $10 per hour surcharge. I mean, you even get fined for showing up early here. When Ramsay playfully decided to lie down on the couch in the reception area for a nap, Shirley didn't respond very well to the joke.
That's really not appropriate. This isn't really appropriate.
But finally, the famous chef returned to the front desk and noticed that his credit card information was written down in a physical book that was accessible to anyone. What kind of management was this? Then Shirley informed Ramsay that he was assigned to room 16. By the way, this room happened to have a permanent resident named Betty, a ghost. Finally, when Chef Ramsay went to his room, he found a pillowcase that had a stain that looked like a footprint. What's more, there was dust everywhere, dead insects scattered around, and then this happened too.
And what is this?
Such a disaster! As if things couldn't get any worse, when Chef Ramsay tried to leave his room, the locks jammed momentarily, trapping him inside.
Babe, let me out.
Ah, poor Chef Ramsay. Betty, come on, was that you? I think Ramsay knows the truth now.
Betty, it's you.
But at this next hotel, Chef Ramsay found several things that were tremendously filthy, but not as much as the owner herself. This woman was downright disgusting. You see, Ramsay couldn't wait to visit the famous Towns Inn in Harpers Ferry, West Virginia in season 3. The inn was owned by Jason and Anna, who had the brilliant idea of purchasing it in 2007 as a quote-unquote investment. And well, they wanted to keep Jason's mother, Karen Townsend, busy during her retirement. But oh boy, little did Chef Ramsay know that he was in for a treat. It turned out that Karen had turned the inn into her very own personal playground. I mean, why run a business when you could turn the hotel into a cozy home?
Her bedroom was in her office. You know, she'd sleep right there.
Okay, maybe it wasn't cozy. As Ramsay started investigating around, he couldn't help but notice the delightful sight of clutter everywhere. There were some outdated loaves of bread casually hanging out with hats, creepy dolls, and even some wicker baskets for sale. Because nothing screams luxury inn like a bizarre mishmash of random items, right?
You didn't know they're for sale.
Of course, Karen was absolutely determined to not change a thing. And let's not forget the charming room that Chef Ramsay was assigned, the Pantomac Room, named after the majestic local river. It was an absolute disaster. There were cracked ceilings, ripped curtains, and of course, this happened as well.
This one is 130.
Oh.
Ramsay also found a locked cupboard, but what was in there? I mean, this is beyond shocking.
But what's in here?
My clothes.
Your clothes?
Mm-hmm.
Karen initially refused when the famous chef dared to ask for the key to her sacred wardrobe. But after some persuasion, she graciously agreed to open it, and you won't believe what was in there.
Oh my.
Oh my. Do you see Karen wearing this stuff?
Chef Ramsay was concerned about cleanliness as any sane person would be, so he decided to conduct a little experiment. Using a bacteria test kit, he tested the cleanliness of his own room. The carpet gave a rating of 803. Oh god. Quite impressive, considering an excellent reading is a mere 30. But fear not, dear guests, since Karen had a brilliant explanation to blame it on those pesky bikers and hikers. Clearly, they were the true culprits behind the filthiness of her inn. So how exactly did she explain the fecal matter that was smeared all over her carpet?
And I think you had an accident on the floor.
Oh my god.
I mean, yeah.
Now, that was entirely Karen's alone, and nope, she wasn't ashamed of it. What an adventure this was. If that wasn't enough, at this next hotel, Chef Ramsay was gonna have to deal with two immature mad sisters who dragged the hotel to the ground all by themselves. Let's dive right into season 2 of episode 5, where Chef Ramsay visited the Calumet Inn in Pipestone, Minnesota. This historic hotel, owned by two sisters named Rena and Vanda Smirkovsky, was a true masterpiece of chaos and mismanagement. 6 weeks after taking charge, Rena left for Minneapolis for 3 months to take a break. On the other hand, Vanda, her younger sister, valiantly took charge of running the hotel by sleeping in until 3 p.m. Despite having zero hospitality experience, the Smirkovsky sisters were convinced that they knew best. They even removed their general manager Mandy Thompson, the only person who was concerned about the hotel, from all of her management duties. When Chef Ramsay arrived at the hotel, he was shocked by the dark, empty entrance and compared it to a prison. He had to actually call out for someone to help him.
Hey you guys!
Once checked in, Ramsay found this in his room.
I wouldn't be surprised if it were mold.
The sisters revealed that they only stayed one night before purchasing the hotel. Chef Ramsay was curious about the room that Rena stayed in, which she claimed was her favorite, but watch how it turned out to be.
Pea stains all over the disgusting wallpaper, holes in the wall here.
The sisters blamed the staff's unprofessionalism, rudeness, and consistent complaints for the hotel's problems. That's why they removed Mandy as well. Oh sure, blaming others is always the best way to solve things, right? But that's exactly what most owners on this show do. They simply think that it's the responsibility of the staff to do everything by themselves without any supervision only because they're paid. Well, some of them weren't even paid. Either way, that's no excuse to let your hotel rot and leave your guests with a sour experience. So these were some of the most disgusting rooms on Hotel Hell. But who knows, there may be more hotels that give sleepless nights to Chef Ramsay in the future.